I've had the AeroGarden Harvest 360 Elite system for several years. It came with their seed starter system. This unit has two trays, a plant growing tray with 6 holes and a seed starter tray with 23 holes for starting seedlings. This is an excellent system for both growing the greens or herbs during the winter months and then starting seeds for transplanting in the garden in the spring. Today I took out the growing tray, completely cleaned the unit to remove all the algae and the mineral buildup in the water reservoir, and cleaned the filter. Then I refilled it with fresh water and installed the seed starter tray while soaking the peat seed pods in water to prepare them for planting seeds. This video will cover the process of set up the system to plant the spring onion seeds through the seed growing season. Today I'm going to start planting seeds in the AeroGarden seed starter kit. These will be spring onions that we need to get started. It's first day of February, and early March we put them out into the garden, so it's time to get the seedlings started. I have a AeroGarden Harvest 360 system, which came with a seed starting system, which I'm going to be using for this. First thing I have to do is remove the regular tray. This was used and has been during the winter for growing salads and vegetables, but this has to come off to convert it, and it's very important when this is removed to also remove this tube that's inside of the system on the pump. This is what pumps the fertilizers up onto the vegetables when you're growing vegetables on this system, but it's not needed when using the seed starter system. So that is taken off and it's saved for future use. The seed starter system has a hole for 23 tubes. This comes with the tubes located. I've also ordered 100 extra ones from Amazon, which gives me 4 batches. This simply replaces this cover on top of here. And AeroGarden recommends soaking the seed pods for 12 to 24 hours before use. I don't usually soak them that long, but I do soak them for a few hours. These have been soaking, as you can see here, all afternoon. They're ready to go. The way that I start seeds is that I soak them and I place the seeds in the pod and then place the pod in the holes here. So I'll get started with that process. The onions I'll be planting today are spring onions, also called bunching onions. I do multi-sowing of these. That is that I grow them in groups of 3 to 4 onions per group, and then when I pull a group, then we have that number of onions ready to put in salads at one time. So each one of these pods here will get 3 or 4 of these seeds. It's not really critical as to whether it's 3, 4, or 5, but in that area has always worked in the past. So I'll make these, dump these seeds out to where I can separate them out and pick out the ones that I need. So I'll take the seed pods, and you'll see there's a divot in each pod, and that's when where I'll place these onion seeds. And I'll place 3 or 4. In this case, I'm going to put 3 in this pod, and then place the pod down inside of here, and then grab another pod, and just repeat this process. That pod got 4 seeds. Three seeds in that one. And I'll stop this video here and finish this. There's no point in recording the entire process. There's 23 of these pods to be filled, and that's a long process. And when I stop this, I'll post a picture of a chart I have, a template, that if you're planting things where each or multiple vegetables will be planting in a seed starter, then you mark on a chart as to what goes into that particular hole. And it makes it possible when they're growing. You can't identify the leaves, but you can tell which pod each of the plants were in. There's about 7 of them. I'll stop this video and then I'll start it again when they're all filled. This is the template designed for the Harvest 360 AeroGarden. It labels each and every one of the 23 cells that you can plant seedlings in. So, for example, if I were going to plant 4 tomato plants, I would plant them in A1 through A4, and then I would list them below in the red section as to what variety is in each of those. And then the same if I were going to have pepper seeds. I was going to have 2 bell, 2 jalapeno, and 2 banana peppers. I would list in the blue section, I would list the jalapenos as B1 and B2, and I'd list the bells as B3 and B4, and then I'd list the banana peppers as B5 and C1, and so on, so that all 23 cells are labeled, and then when it comes time to transplant, you know what's in exactly each cell. Okay, all the pods have been filled. They have between 3 and 5 seeds in each one. Next important step is to push each of the pots down all the way into the hole to make sure that they're fully seated in the water and that they will soak up the water. If you put these pods in dry, they fall to the bottom. But if you soak them like I did, they swell, and then you have to push them down into the water. So they're all ready now to start sprouting onions, which hopefully be ready to put in the gardens the first week of March. The next step that needs to happen is you need to add plant food to this, and for seed starting you use 1/2 of the amount of seed starter that you do if you're growing plants. I use FoxFarm Grow Big organic, it's not organic, it's hydroponic plant food. I don't know if that'll show on the label, but need 4 milliliters of this to add to this, to the water in this unit. When I start this, that will turn the pump on, that'll circulate that plant food. The next thing I need to do is to add enough water to bring it up to the fill to here mark, which is easy to do through the hole they provide. This plug keeps the water from evaporating out of there. And that plug's also handy. The camera shut off there momentarily and I had to restart it. I started to say that plug keeps the water from evaporating, but it also is handy for when you need to pull this unit out of the tray. The next thing I need to do is set the time and the function on the unit. This particular one has a digital or LCD display, which makes it easy to do. So I'll lower the camera down a little bit and see if I can record that process. It may not be recordable, but what it'll do is it'll tell the light to come on 6 a.m., go off at 9 p.m., and get these plants or seeds growing. It also, during this process, the light is lowered to the lowest position, And then as they start growing, it's raised up so it stays about 4 inches above the plants. So I'll reset the camera here and see if I can get the LCD display. I'm not sure that this will show up, but I'm going to try and record it. There's a green light on the side that you press to start the process. And I'm going to select set clock. Going to set the time to the local time. The buttons on this are very sensitive. It does not take much pressure to change these numbers. Now I'm going to select the garden type. I'm going to set it to salads, which is the closest setting. And it is now ready to go. The timer on there says at 14 days it will ask for some more liquid fertilizer. And in about a month's time, or 5 weeks, these onion sets will be ready to set out into the garden. So I'll come back and show the progress as they are growing. And it'll be about 4 days that the onions will be up, and I'll be back then. It's day 14 since I started the onion seedlings, and the AeroGarden says it's time to add some plant food. It shows it both on the LCD display and the red light flashing. So we'll take care of this garden today and see how it comes. You can see the onion seedlings are growing really great, and we'll see what the looks like on the inside here in just a second. I'll lift up this tray that has all the seedlings in and look inside and see how it's looking. We can see that there are roots forming there, quite lengthy down into the liquid, and those will continue feeding the onion seedlings. And then we'll put this back together and we'll add some plant food to it. You may recall earlier I mentioned that use half the amount of plant food for the seedlings as you do when you're growing plants. So that'll be 4 milliliters of plant food that we add. And that's that simple to add plant food. Then I press this red button, and that resets the timer on the AeroGarden, and it turns the pump on to circulate the plant food throughout the AeroGarden. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is day 14, and in another couple weeks, these onion seedlings will start moving outside to get hardened off and get them ready to transplant into the gardens. Usually the first week of March, we plant onion seeds onion plants into the garden. So that's going to be the end of the video for this process of growing these onions. So far I'm very happy with the results of them. Everything's looking great.